meeting. Members present are Daryl Bullock, Carrie Sebren, Marsha Bannister, John Stile, Brian Buma, I forgot the last name, sorry, and John Weimer. Absent, Emily Rice. The first topic on agenda is adoption of meeting minutes from the last meeting that happened on November 19th, 2020. Do we have the motion? Are you making motion, Marsha?
Sure.
Okay. Do we have second?
I'll second it.
Yep.
Thank you much. So the meeting minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is to choose the chairperson for this board. As some of you remember, we had Mark Reitz, who was the chairperson until he was replaced with other choice of our governor. And I don't know how exactly you want to proceed. Would you like to recommend the name, or would you like to do something different? Are any of you interested to be chairpersons? Are any of you recommending somebody else? We don't have, legal means to respect in this case, and it can be by simple vote.
I'm not, no, I'm not interested. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm really not interested either, so.
Hey, Marsha?
I'd be interested.
Who said?
I would, Daryl.
Okay, you would be interested.
Somebody's got to fall in the axe.
Okay.
That was pretty easy.
Anybody else?
Yeah, John Stile.
Okay, John, are you interested to be a chairperson?
I am.
Okay, okay. So would you like to maybe tell us briefly why are you interested to be chairperson, and maybe a sentence too, and then members can take a vote?
Yeah, so I'm interested in being the chairperson because currently I sit on one of the boards for Fayette County Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm a board member there. And I'm also, I've got a background as a building inspector. I had that position with Bremer County, Iowa for a short time. And I've been working with codes. So the building codes, electrical codes, the energy codes, mechanical codes for quite some time. I know there's work to be done here in Iowa on the codes, and I would like to see some movement on them instead of 17 months of doing nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that.
Daryl, would you like to say a couple of words for your reason?
Sure, absolutely. I've been in the building industry pretty much my entire life. I've been a certified building official for the last 8-9 years, I guess it is now, doing all facets of the building enforcement in Sioux City. I've been in Sioux City my entire life. I've got an interest because of, again, the delay that we've had in getting some of these codes done. I just went through an audit for the Insurance Commission audit. And one of the things, of course, we got beat up right away was because of our being behind on the codes versus the code cycle that we're in right now. And we try to mirror the state as much as we possibly can over here. We try not to get ahead of it, but we definitely don't lag behind it. So we're actually behind and got beat up a little bit about that. But one of the unique things I think I want to bring to this is the perspective of what it looks like over on the western side of Iowa, on the competitiveness that we have. We're dealing with 2 other states, and we're trying to get businesses to stay here. We're trying to get housing over here in Iowa and be equally, equal to that. We also have some issues out in the county areas around here, so I think it'd be interesting to be able to promote that and move that forward in Iowa. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
What was your name again?
Daryl Bullock.
So Daryl, question
Yes.
for you. So neighboring states, I'm thinking you're talking about Nebraska and South Dakota.
Yep, we can, if I wanted to take the boat out, I could sit in all 3 states right now.
Right. So right now, from what I understand, they're kind of pretty loose on their code requirements. South Dakota.
Very much
I know
so.
this, yeah. And Nebraska falls right in line with them.
Nebraska's getting a little better recently. They've had some updates on their energy code and on their electrical code recently, but they did gut some of those codes pretty bad.
Right. So I guess my question would be, you know, you mentioned competitiveness within those 2, 3, or that 3-state area there.
Mm-hmm.
With them having simpler codes, people are going to preferably build over there more readily than to build in Iowa, because if Iowa has stricter codes, then it's cheaper for them to build in neighboring Nebraska or South Dakota. So
Correct.
which way would you like to see code cycles go?
I'd like
to see.
I'd like to see them as current as we can to the most current edition, but I also want to make sure that we're being smart about what we're doing, what we're adopting. I don't want to see things that are not about health and safety. That's by far the most part. That's our job, is health and safety. But some of the codes don't make a lot of sense when it comes to new items that are added just because a manufacturer wants to lobby and sell its product to the ICC members. That doesn't make sense. It's not about health and safety. And you take a look at some of those things that get put in there, and you start adding these costs. Now you're losing your grip on any remote chance of affordable housing in Iowa. And I don't want us to get to that. I want us to keep it simple. I want it to keep it straightforward and make sense.
I agree with that portion of it, where manufacturers are going in front of ICC and pushing their products, and that's happened with the electrical code pretty heavily as well.
Yes, I agree.
So, GFCIs, AFCIs, they've been the big thing now.
And we find when we go out and do the inspections is they're sitting on top of the panel, and people are going in the panel and putting standard breakers in. It's tough.
Right.
It's hard to do.
But is
And
what
every inspection I have, every single inspection I have on houses, there's always an electrical issue with that, with the GFIs and
Yeah.
breakers.
I get this.
every
I
single
get
one.
the safety aspect of it. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand that, but I think some of these areas that they're looking at putting some of these arc fault breakers and things like that, that we need to look and see how they're moving those forwards too. Now I know they're currently in the proposal that is out there for the new NEC 2020 adoption. They've taken them out of the larger appliances, which obviously makes sense because one, not all the manufacturers even make those breakers. And two, they're just not going to work. I mean, think about a gas stove. You create spark just to ignite the gas. It's never going to work. So they've gotten some smart things out of there, but there are some of those issues out there that we really should look at.
Yeah, I agree with you there. But there's also, so it seems like we've got a divide in the state, and where that divide occurs, I'm not exactly sure. But there are, as far as the codes, enforcement, and what's out there between the western side of the state and the eastern side of the state are two different animals.
Absolutely.
So is what I see.
John, don't you have the same situation? Aren't you in eastern Iowa? Is that what you said?
I'm over here in Iowa
Yeah.
City, and yeah, I do all kinds of things, fire alarm systems, entire electrical installations, and I agree with both of you guys, and both of you guys are qualified, no doubt. I don't know how we're going to solve this issue of adopting a new chairperson, but all your concerns are right up front. There's no doubt about it. So I have some other issues, but this is not the time since we're trying to select a new chairperson. But yeah, I'm on the same page.
So is what I was going to say is we've seen on the eastern portion of Iowa, pretty much from the Des Moines area east, in the larger towns and municipalities, is where they've adopted and enforced the newer codes, right? So we're seeing, what do you want to say, better housing standards coming to play on the eastern side of the state than we are on the western side of the state. So I wouldn't want to see the eastern side of the state driven backwards because of lack of enforcement in other areas of the state.
Well, I take a little offense to that because we're very
I-
adamant about enforcing the code over here.
Well,
That
don't
mean-
take it.
That doesn't
don't take-
mean that you can't be more restrictive than what the state has adopted either. If your municipality wants to be more restrictive, you certainly can.
Well, and aren't you
Right.
in competition with Illinois? They're stricter, right?
Illinois is a lot. They are stricter in some areas. They have made some amendments to their code.
Yeah.
Minnesota, I would say, is stricter than Illinois and Iowa. And then you've got Wisconsin, who is a whole different animal because they've got their own code that they go through, and they pretty much chop stuff up over there.
Yeah. The way I kind of look at it is that I understand safety, but we've got to look at affordability and not throw stuff in the code just to throw stuff in the code or because of the lobbyist. Again, our housing has to be affordable. And
Yes.
if we keep going with the codes, it's not going to be. So no one wins. The east side, the west side, in Des Moines, nobody wins.
You're right.
That's exactly why we have the building code advisory group and, you know, the building code commissioner. And the idea is to make requirements definitely compatible and not redundant.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys have heard enough to make a choice in between two members that wouldn't mind being chairpersons. You may say that the chairperson is for this calendar year and then next year decide to choose somebody else. You may as well decide to have the chairperson for 6 months or as long as the mandate lasts. It really is not regulated by any documents and it's up to you. Are you ready to maybe take votes in between Daryl and John? Are you ready, or you would like to hear a little bit more?
I think I'd like to vote via email, say within the next day or two.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We need to
That's fair. I would agree.
anonymously.
You send your votes to me and then I will inform you of who has been selected to be a chairperson. And from then on, I probably am not going to bother you with a lot because my direct contact will be that chairperson. Scheduling meetings, finding times, deciding about agenda will be in coordination with the chairperson of this meeting, okay?
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Just a reminder that your votes are only Lyrica would know them, and anything you do is a public record. So if somebody were to ask, hey, can I see all the votes, it would be that would be considered public. I'm not super comfortable with not having it on the record who people are voting for, but since it's not a dispositive issue, I don't think we should make a huge deal of it. But at the next meeting, we are going to have to say the vote was 4-3 or whatever it will be.
I'm just trying to prevent animosity between
Yeah.
people who want to kill
Yeah.
each
No.
other, you know?
I agree.
Trying to find a democratic way to do this.
Well, that's why we
Absolutely.
have to have the lawyer
Listen,
here. I rain on everyone's parade. That's my job.
Lawyer-
You keep us all straight, right?
Yep.
Now it's your time to continue, Catherine, because the next topic is updates to the state energy code.
So with the oh good, I'm not muted. So with the what we can do is a point of discussion, and where I'd want to start it. I hear there's discussion both ways, whether to move forward, to not move forward, and how it, and I know David sent out along with the agenda some proposed rules that if the advisory council would like to move forward in analyzing the rules, those might be start as a good point. What I would propose we do today, if this is amenable to everyone, is we discuss whether we do want to move forward, and then discuss, not with adoption, but move forward with analyzing the rules and get the ball rolling, so to speak. And then from then, if that is the way the board wants to, or excuse me, the council wants to go, then we can more generally discuss how that would look as a practical matter. What maybe we could do one meeting that is the builders, one meeting that's energy folks, one meeting that's, you know, people with public opinions and comments can be involved in it too. So with that, I'll turn it over, and I'll again remind the council that it's kind of, the council and the department work together, in that the council would advise adoption of a new rule should we decide to go that way, and then the department would take that advisement into consideration, but the department is not necessarily legally bound to adopt it. We have considerations, and since we are an executive agency, we have to get the governor's approval to move forward, but she can't do anything unless we put it forward, and we, the department, can't do anything unless the council would like us to do something. So the ball starts with you, and I'll turn it over to open up the discussion on how and if the council would like to move forward in analyzing updates to the energy code.
I certainly would.
Well, I think we have to. We've been stuck in the mud here for what, 2 years, 3 years? We haven't done anything.
So
Yeah.
with these, with this analysis that you're talking about, is this, so there was a there was a stakeholders meeting already on the code cycle, correct?
Yes. We've done one for the 2015 code, and we've done it for the 2018 code. The one that's proposed in front of you is the 2018 code. I can go into it further if you'd like, but
can I ask a quick question? So I've been in this long enough that when we were in the 2015 code, and then the 2018 code came out, and so we set aside the 215 because they said it, you know, we're done with that one. We're going to move on to the 2018. So are we going to move on to the 2021 and not do anything with the 2018, or how's this going to work? Because it seems like we keep backtracking.
Well, Marcia, the energy code's more of a political animal,
Yeah.
so we've always kept it separate.
All right.
The idea of moving to the 15 at first, that actually was halted by the governor.
Okay.
And then when the 18 came out, we felt that there were a number of different things in the 18 that actually fixed issues from the 15.
Okay.
Rich decided to take a different tact with it, and we did phone interviews. Daryl and John Stile both were on those phone interviews in different capacities, actually.
Yes.
Daryl was on with the code officials, and John was on with basically statewide raiders. So in both cases, the reason why we probably wouldn't even look at the 2021 code is because it is such a political animal, and it takes a lot longer to go through the process with the energy code. And the preference is that we should take smaller steps. So the idea of going to the 21, which I've seen some of the 21, is it's a larger step, and it's harder for people to digest and to make the leap to the next code cycle when it's, I think it's a 12% leap this time instead of 3%. So,
Yeah,
But Dave, we haven't taken any steps, have we? Am I missing something here?
no, we're still on the 2012 energy code with weakening amendments that are already in it.
Yeah. Okay.
So you see, the issue though is we're already looking at 6-year cycle here, and even through our process of stakeholder groups, we still have kept the weakening amendments. So it's easier to take the smaller step, and we're probably in the 12 years about an 8% difference, 8.5% for Iowa with the weakening amendments.
Why do you call them weakening? I mean, is that your term, or is that?
That's a Department of Energy term. So what it's doing is it actually makes it, Department of Energy looks at it as a negative to that code. So it would be, to Department of Energy, it would be 2015 plus rather than 2018 negative.
Mm-hmm.
So the amendments we put in actually weaken what it says in the code.
And I agree with
So we're
David
becoming-
on the jumping from 12 to 21 is a huge leap for those that have to actually comply with that code, and being able to explain those differences and those jumps. Just like if you're doing a significant changes between 2012 and 2018, now you got to go 2012 to 2018 to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to keep you got to keep moving those things forward, so you know what has changed in each one of them. Because significant changes from the 2015 to the 2018 doesn't mean a darn thing about what was happened in the 2012. So you need to be able to keep up with that. And to make that jump as a builder or an installer, it's very difficult to get those people to understand that. I mean, we try to do as much education as we can over here with them through different public meetings that we'll hold to show them the compliance. But he's right in the fact that you make that huge jump. It's pretty significant. So.
Yeah, I agree with that also, that going to 2021 would be like too much, too fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair at all.
Baby steps, otherwise you're going to have so much pushback. It just, it doesn't make sense to go there.
Yeah, I agree with that. But how many builders are actually using the 2012? Aren't most of them using 15 or 18?
So, I don't know, Dave, if you want to pitch in on this, you can, but,
Okay.
So,
What I understand is some of the larger cities in the state have adopted a more strict or a newer version of the code, of the energy code. For instance, I'm pretty sure Des Moines is on the 2018 energy code already. So yes, there are certain municipalities that are on a more strict energy code. It's not statewide, so it kind of hits or misses. From what I understand, some of the burbs in Des Moines for sure, and I think Cedar Rapids is on the 2018 or
yeah,
15 code.
Cedar Rapids, Hiawatha, they're doing more than the state is right now as well.
Yeah,
As
thing
a-
is, it's
Yeah, as a point of clarification, and I think this is where Lyrica is going to get to, they're not supposed to be. The statute is pretty clear that municipalities are only free to adopt their own codes they're free in all areas except the energy code. They're supposed to be on the state energy code in those municipalities. How and why they haven't gotten sued yet, I don't know. The Department of Public Safety has no enforcement on those municipalities, but they are not supposed to. So they are willfully ignoring the status of the law right now.
So that may be true. So they may be stepping on their own feet, but one of the things is their builders over there did not have a problem moving to them because they were already hitting it. So they had already moved on. The builders themselves had already moved on to reaching for that goal for the 2015 or 18 code without the state saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. So yeah, they might have stepped on their toes already, but just how the building industry is going in this area, they're moving forward. So for them, for the people on this side of the state, I guess it would not be a big impact for them to move forward into a code because they're already there.
Just for your information, though, we have the opposite true as well in the state, where we have certain municipalities that are more not even really enforcing, but just telling their home builders specifically that you don't have to meet the energy code because we're not going to enforce it. So
Exactly.
we have a number of municipalities that are like that are somewhere between 2006, 2009 levels of energy code. So we run the gambit in the state.
I see this issue as a county by county problem in this state. And one of the reasons I wanted to get into this was because of this. Yeah, how do we enforce this at all?
Yeah, that's a problem on this side of the state as well, where we deal with when they get outside of the city limits, our jurisdiction ends as far as Sioux City is concerned. And we see these houses going up and nobody's checking for energy code compliance whatsoever.
So when we adopted the 2012 code, I was in conversation with some people up in the Spencer Spirit Lake area.
Yep.
And is what they told me was Iowa's a home rule state, and we don't have to comply with this code if we don't choose to.
They're wrong.
We have to police this somehow.
But do they really think that? If they think that, then we probably need to educate them somehow.
Exactly. So that was my argument. And, they got their attorneys involved, their city attorneys, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to go hire an attorney to back up what I'm saying, and try and lead them down the right path. I didn't push it. I let it go because I had no authority. I had no authority out there.
Was it Spencer, you said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with Spencer recently-ish, within the last, Lyrica, when was that? It's been since I got back from maternity leave, so the last 6 months. And it's my understanding they are following the code now.
Well,
Okay.
But does home rule have anything to do with it? Does that eliminate counties in Iowa from following the code? Like
Not the energy code.
No.
Okay, because even like the city of Dubuque, they adopted the code, but then they took stuff out of it as well. So some of the testing parameters, they said, well, we're not going to enforce this. So I don't know, maybe these people from these cities and counties and such need to have a letter written to them and say, hey, this is what the state does, and you're supposed to be doing it as well.
Well, they need to be clear on it. I mean, they have to have some communication that says, hey, this is what it is.
I sit on the state mechanical and plumbing systems board, and I can tell you that lawyers from Iowa Department of Public Health are still writing letters to counties and cities in regards to application of the state plumbing and state mechanical code. It is convoluted and the never clear issue, and it's exactly same with energy code. It's very similar with making codes and standards for making spaces accessible for people with disabilities, and that's exactly why we have the position of the building code commissioner, who probably needs to do. Marcia is completely right. You can write thousands of letters, but you have to teach people. You have to go, you have to do presentations, you have to see, where is your squeaking wheel in a process, and to grease it, whatever is the idiom. But that is, everything that you're talking about has been topic for past 6 years, isn't it, Marcia? We have been talking about
everything we have talked about today. We have been talking about for 6 years. Yes.
6 years.
So can you mandate training? I mean, or is that getting sticky here?
So you know what? That's a really good question right there, because there's mandated training for electricians. So
training for real estate agents too. I mean, I have to take 36 hours every 3 years and 60 hours, but so
Right.
There's got to be some way that we can educate these people so everybody's on the same base.
So
And I would
I've
think.
always had the idea that, all right, as electricians, when you're an electrician, you are registered with the state and you hold a license, and the state tracks your training hours, right?
Correct.
Anybody in the state of Iowa can sign up to be a builder.
Now, wait, John, I
Right.
want to talk about that because that's one of my pet peeves I fought home builders for years because I said a builder should be licensed, and they almost kicked me out of home builders because, I mean, if they were mad, they were over the top mad at me that I would even suggest that. But you know, you have to have a license. I have to, Carrie has, we all have to have a license, but they can go out and build an entire house and not have a license. You can
Exactly.
have a junk truck and put "I'm a builder" on the side of it and go build a house. It doesn't make sense to me, but
I agree 100%.
Exactly.
I have fought it for at least 10 years. At least
so
10 years. In
that
fact,
would
they were
be
so mad at me, they went in and took all of my posts off of Facebook on home builders. Yeah, that's how
Well,
mad
some of
they
them are going to lose their jobs, that's why. But
Yeah,
damn it.
exactly.
Yeah.
They had to take a test or go to school and learn something.
There's,
right.
Yeah,
There's-
that's a pet peeve with me.
we've got some cities around the area here that do require state license or a builder's certification through ICC
Yeah.
to be able to pull a permit. We require electrical, plumbing, and mechanical
Yes.
to be licensed by the state of Iowa to be able to pull a permit for that here. You know, but you go right to the city limits to the north of us in Plymouth County, you can wire your own house.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
How do
Yep.
we solve this problem? That's
So-
another reason I'm on this council.
Which is illegal.
Another creek we got to go up, I think, and I think we need to, I think we owe it to the state of Iowa to do that and look into the possibility of that state licensing.
and I'll
Right,
be the
because you know
first one to help.
So like in Southern Iowa, you can get a contractor to come in from Missouri and build a home, right?
Yep.
Or maybe in Western Iowa, you get somebody coming from Nebraska and build a home.
All the time.
And same thing in Northern Iowa.
Yeah, half the people in Des Moines come out of Kansas. Of course, they're big builders, but they still come up here and build. I mean, they just go wherever they want to go.
Close
And
to
these,
Right, and
these
now you've got-
topics, I'm sorry to interrupt, but these topics are exactly what the future building code commissioner needs to hear and you need to advise him about.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly what
Yeah.
the person, whoever the person is the priority for that job. And that's why that person will have 7 of you with wonderful experience and practical examples of why certain things are not going to work or make it too redundant, too expensive, or whatever.
Mhm.
And I personally, after 22 years working for the Building Code Bureau and for the State Fire Marshal, am looking forward for the person that will help us, to expedite the process of the code application, trainings, education, and coordination with other state agencies. So you don't have, if you have the approval from my office, you should not have a conflict with John Kelly from Public Health or
Yeah.
John Kurtz from IFA. If
Well-
we approve it, you don't need to go through John Kurtz and Iowa Finance Authority and meet their rules, So that is what the job is about. I'm glad that you are excited about the position and, resolving issues. Where should we move with the energy? I think that Catherine, on the end of her brief presentation, said we have to make a decision. Are we moving forward in, considering amendments, talking about them, or would you like to leave it aside and talk only about the rest of building code adoption?
I would make a motion that we move forward with it.
I'd
Okay.
second that. I'd second that.
Daryl, was it you seconding? Okay, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
In the
that's-
2018 amendments, that's what we're talking about, Lyrica, the 2018 that you guys sent out. The amendments.
Yes,
Just
that's the
amendments.
document. That is like the base for discussion, to be honest. Not necessarily it's a final document. It really should not be. It's a base for discussion. Catherine, David, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's fine. Marcia, what's your question? And then we can maybe, I could either answer it quickly or we can table it for the next one.
No, we were going to talk about the amendments. And I was just asking if this document that was sent out is what we're talking about. These are the suggested amendments.
No, that's HBA's suggested amendments. The amendments that we are going to do is actually part of the draft copy of 661-303.
All right.
So we thought we're thinking about that document.
Marcia, it's this one that got sent
I
out.
can
I
send,
can't see
I
you.
can send
Cheryl.
you that. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
that?
proposed rule. I can send it again. We have it, and I can send it to you guys. Take a look. It's not final. It is the base for discussion.
Thank you very much, because I didn't get any documents.
Yeah, I didn't either. I'm missing documents evidently. Or
I
no.
I did review
I
some.
send you the link. I send you the link. I think I send you the link. It doesn't matter. I will do it again.
Okay. So
Thank
then
you.
we
So,
probably need to table it until we get those, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd kind of like to hear from David on what he's got proposed in here, just a Reader's Digest version, so that we've got something to look at when we're and consider when we're reviewing those documents.
Okay. Daryl and John would probably remember this fairly well, since they were part of the original working groups that we did discuss the 2018 with. And as you recall, when we first started the process, we took amendments that were proposed by Iowa Home Builders Association, everybody that was involved in previous times. And we ended up boiling down probably in the 20s or 30s amendments down to 4, or basically 4. The four amendments, after lots of negotiation, especially with HBA, were basically exactly the same amendments we have under the 2012 code. So, if you recall, even under the 2012 code, we have an amendment that weakens the blower door requirement, which is pressurization it's a negative pressurization of the house, improving air leakage. The difference between 12 and 18 was we actually separated out multifamily at 4 air exchanges per hour and single family housing as 3.5 air exchanges per hour. So that's one amendment. The next amendment was the amendment that allows return airs in cavities as long as they're sealed and tested. That didn't change a whole lot. There is an amendment for the prescriptive table. Basically, what we did was we allowed the wall types in the prescriptive table for both of our climate zones, which is 5 and 6. We basically adopted the climate zone 5 requirement for walls in the prescriptive table to be in climate zone 6 as well. Mm-hmm. And then the final one, if I recall, it had to do with the air leakage in ductwork. It's exactly the same way it was in 2012 code.
Yeah.
So nothing has really changed amendment-wise. It does cover with negotiations a number of HBA proposed amendments. So I think in the end, the HBA was okay with what we were going to do. Of course, they'll never say, yes, we back going to the next code. They'll never say that. But
of course not.
The HBA basically says that we wouldn't vote against it and it's not going to affect us.
So
and the sad thing,
We have the
sad
amendment
thing is
about the foam. What was
Say it again, Marcia.
the foam? Wasn't there something in there about the foam too? Or am I thinking of something else? The foam in the wall.
ductwork, right?
Is that part of the ductwork?
No, I think what she's referring to is a requirement for exterior foam on exterior walls.
Yeah.
The prescriptive table for Climate Zone 6 had that had that portion in there. But keep in mind, that's just prescriptive, Marcia.
Okay,
And what we did for our amendment basically weakened Climate Zone 6 so they can do a cavity only if they want to.
okay,
They could always do it in any of the other, actually 3 more paths of compliance. You could always take that out and do something different. You just had to trade it off with something else.
yeah, 'cause that one scared me a little bit because that was going to raise the cost to, I mean, it was going to affect affordability a lot.
Well, only if you went that path.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly.
So if you have the choice, then
Yes.
it's moot.
Right, because
right.
you could always go the form spec.
Sorry, guys, sorry.
We actually have 4 paths of compliance.
I don't know.
Well, I don't think this is complicated at all. I vote to move forward.
Yeah, so we've got that taken care of, right? We've got
Yeah.
a motion and a second on it, right?
That's right.
Who
Excuse
second
me.
that?
Who was second?
I was.
Okay, wonderful. So we are moving forward with discussion about the state energy code.
I'm gonna
Yes.
The next
you guys for
topic,
a second.
So can I get clarification on one thing though? So when I used your link to go to ICC's website to look at the version of 2018 code, there's 4 separate versions in there or revisions of it. So we are using revision 4.
David,
Yes, we would go with the version that is the most current.
okay.
And
So-
by the way, the different versions, usually it's something as stupid as a misspelled word or a period in the wrong place. So that's usually what the version differences are.
Okay.
Does the most current version require third-party verification of the energy code?
That's correct. We've actually had that in there since, well, our current one even has that. 2012 does.
Okay, so I think that we concluded that we will continue with discussion about the energy code, and the next meeting will definitely have this as one of agenda items. The next item on the agenda is update.
Hold on,
to the
Lyrica, I
state
want to
bill.
make one last thing before we move on. If how the council wants to move forward is, I would suggest that when we set the next meeting or next agenda, that we do have a comment period for public comment, and whether we could do that one of 2 ways, is that we members of the council can reach out to their constituents or people they believe might, essentially stakeholders that might have strong opinions, and they can plan an organized presentation, and or we can just leave it open for public comments and set some type of ground rules on how we want to deal with the public comments. So we should probably talk through, instead of just saying we're going to talk more next time, how we want to get the public's input on this issue.
How would you notify them, Carolyn? The same way we always do, or the public?
We would do the department would do our normal public meeting posting. And that would be up to the council how we would want to do it. We have means via press release that we could put something out if people had input. We could, the fire marshal's office could reach out to our normal stakeholders, but we want to make sure people have the opportunity to be heard while we move forward on this.
Like a Zoom call or something, or just comments in writing?
We could do both. We can do whatever you want. That's kind of the next step in deciding.
Yeah, that would be tough to get comments in person, I would think, but
Yeah, comments in writing, I think, would be the best
yeah,
focus.
I don't know how we do it any other way until COVID goes away, until we can all meet again.
So we want to go forward then with just the comments in writing?
Well, that would be my suggestion, but I think Carolyn needs to make that determination.
That's perfectly fine and perfectly perfectly legal. What would be, we can set something out from the department. Dan and I can get together, if whether that is a public press release or whether that's going to be just to stakeholders, unless anyone has a strong preference either way.
Not really.
No.
I mean,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
in today's world, you can reach people pretty easily anymore. So
And,
Okay.
and I do have the mailing list of probably around 24 people that represent different disciplines and different businesses, from home builders to energy associations to IABO, AIA, Iowa chapter, architects, engineers. I also have Iowa real estate representative. So I definitely can send an invite to them to send us any comments they would like to, and then we can kind of go through them next time we meet.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Do we need to take a vote for that then?
Do they need to take a vote, Catherine, or it's
Yes.
just enough
Yes,
a
please.
motion and second? Okay. Okay. Then let me see. Daryl,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
John Style,
Yes.
John Beamer,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Marcia.
Yes.
Done. 6 yeses. Thank you. The next topic on our agenda, and the last one, is the adoption, updates to the rest of components of the state building code. And our fire marshal, Dan Wood, will brief you about that.
Okay, so we're looking at possibly adopting the 2021 I codes. Kind of how that process works for us is, first we look at our administrative codes that we have internally, and we try to get them at least ready to be updated the best we can, with new dates, new addresses, if there is any, new phone numbers, etc. Aside from that, we look at any amendments we've had in the past. Have they changed? Do we want to change them? Do we want to keep them the same? Things like that. On top of all that, we would have, the stakeholder meetings, comment periods, all the stuff you have on normal code adoptions. But we are just getting started with that process. Even with going through that process, I think a pretty aggressive date is probably January of next year. I hope to have them adopted, at least in some form, by that time next year. And that's both the building and the fire code. In the past, we've adopted them together just for simplicity. To kind of answer a topic that came up earlier of, why don't we switch every 3 years? There's a couple reasons. One of them is, if the code doesn't change a whole lot, it becomes, why are we doing this? And it also kind of leads into the second reason is the affordability for even our office. When we go to buy code books, I'm looking at least $20,000 every time we switch codes. So it becomes really not affordable for us, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I really didn't. I was just going to say, I really didn't think we should adopt every code. I just thought in the 6 years that I have been there, we haven't moved forward at all to a new code. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying by any means we should adopt every 3 years. So does that make sense?
Daryl, what kind of trouble?
Right.
is this causing you guys with your insurance audit? Is there a amount of money applied to that?
It depends on what our rating comes back. I mean, we had a pretty good rating the last time because the state had just adopted the 2015 code, so we were in the current code cycle on all of our codes all the way through. So we had a really good rating. It will increase the insurance, property insurance for structures that are built during that code cycle that is behind the typical. So our new rating, whatever that rating is going to be, which it is worse than last time because we're far enough off of those codes that it'll increase the premiums for those folks for the duration of that structure. So the better the ratings you can get, the better it is for your property insurance, for your homeowners, your property owners, your structures, commercial. It doesn't matter, anything. Our fire department the last time around had the best rating that you could get, and we were one behind them. And now we're going to probably drop at least a couple of notches, I would imagine. Is it majorly significant? No, it's not huge, but it is something that you want to make sure you're trying to provide as current and safe of a structure as you can. So with all the new building products that come around and the different systems that are out there, it is important to keep up with that because the products are going to be out there available for sale, whether it's in the code or not. And then you got to go back and verify and see if there's been approvals through ICC testing. If there's been a third party, the independent testing that's been done on the products, things like that. So it is good to be as current as you can with the code cycles, but I agree, it may not necessarily be that you have to do it every 3 years, but it sure is good to keep it close. So I think we're on the right track, honestly, with starting to look at this and getting this done within the next 12 months.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not for lack of wanting to. It's just you gotta really weigh everything when it comes to those decisions. In the past, we've tried to do every 6 because we went from 2009 to the 2015. Now we're planning on going from the 15 to the 21. And again, it's really affordability and are we really changing that much each time a new code cycle comes out every 3? So. That's kind of where we're at on that. As we start going through that, obviously, we will kind of do the same as, post the public meetings, the comment periods, stuff like that. But we're not quite to that spot yet. We meeting internally about the various administrative codes, and we'll get our ducks in a row and then get everything out to the public, so to speak. So all I have on that.
I would like just to add 2 things. What Dan was talking about is how parallel to adoption of the building code, we are adopting the state fire code. And that is the only that makes sense for the Building Code Bureau and Fire Prevention Bureau because we closely work together on approximately 860 projects and approximately $1 billion of construction. So with these codes, the state fire and state building code, we regulate non-corporate part of the state of Iowa. And even being a home rule, it's a lot of rules that apply for buildings being built, commercial buildings being built in the middle of nowhere. And that is why the, adoption every 3 years becomes very expensive because you have so many small towns that the only document that they have to go by is the state fire code or statewide provisions of the state building codes such as accessibility and energy. The other thing that I would like you to maybe take a look if you have time, the building code is consisted of multiple administrative rules. I will send you a link to all of them, but keep in mind that Energy Code, which is Iowa Administrative Rule 661303, is one of probably 7 or 8 documents that you will be, considering, talking about, analyzing, and probably on the end adopting. It is administrative rules in 300, it's adoption of the building code in 301, it is accessibility in 302, it's energy in 303, it is sustainable design in 310, it is the suggestion for the historical building code in 350. So all these are documents that you will be chiming in, talking about, and learning along with all of us from the building code. So that is why the deadline for all these adoptions is probably to happen in a year from now. It's a lot of documents to read and to, consider before we propose the notice for the adoption.
Okay,
Sounds like good
Okay.
reading.
yeah.
Right, so
Yes.
make a comment, or actually it's a question. I thought it was really odd. I got a phone call about a month ago from the state of New Hampshire, and they said they were from the building code department, and they had heard a lot of good things about Iowa. And since I was on the commission, they wanted to know what my thoughts were. And I go, I really thought it was a scam to begin with. And I said, so I will hang up and I'll call you back. And so I looked up the number. I can't remember how I got the number. Anyway, I called them back and it was them. And they asked me question after question after question. And they wanted to know who else was on the commission. And I told them, and they said they were going to contact some of you too, because they're trying to pattern their system after Iowa's. Did anybody else?
Same call. I got the same call.
You did?
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
They can download the damn thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was I almost called Lyrica, and then I thought, nah, it's just no big deal. But I was curious if anybody else got that call, and evidently you did. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is it any other topics that you would like to discuss today, or should we put the motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be
All right,
waiting for
thank-
documents.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. I will be sending you a lot of links and a lot of reading for you
All
guys.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you much. Take care.